Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for being here. On behalf of the Environmental Finance Center Network, welcome to today's webinar, Confident Solids Management in Your Wastewater Lagoon. My name is Zoe Eisel from the Syracuse University Environmental Finance Center. Before we begin, we're going to go over a few logistics, and then we can get started. During the webinar today, everyone will be kept on mute to ensure audio quality. If you have a question, please type it into the GoToWebinar question box anytime throughout the session. We will be saving your questions for a facilitated Q&A session at the end of the presentation. Please note, GoToWebinar has recently gone through an update, and you can now add live captions or react using emojis. After the webinar, you will receive a follow-up email that includes a link to the recording and any other information you may need. You can also download the slides from today in the Materials tab in your GoToWebinar control panel. This webinar has not been submitted for pre-approval of continuing education credits, but eligible attendees will receive a certificate of attendance for their personal record. To receive a certificate for this session, you must attend for the entire session and register and attend individually using your real name and unique email address. Certificates will be sent via email within 30 days of the webinar date. If you have questions or need assistance, please contact smallsystems@syr.edu. Now for a little bit about us. The Environmental Finance Center Network provides training and technical assistance to small water and wastewater systems in all U.S. states and territories through our building technical, managerial, and finance capacity programs. If your community or utility needs assistance with drinking water or wastewater system management, please feel free to contact us through our request form, which I will be sharing shortly in the chat. Our team is located across the country and can readily deploy staff or resources to meet your community where you are. Each of our partners brings unique experience and specialized expertise to address a wide range of community needs and expand the available services EFCN has to offer. Through this network, EFCN works directly with communities and utilities to provide a wide variety of free, customized technical assistance services. Find only some of the many ways our team can support your community listed here, and use the link in the chat to submit a request and receive tailored support based on your needs. Lastly, make sure to keep up with EFCN by scanning the QR codes provided or visiting the links I will be sharing shortly in the chat. Through these links, you can view upcoming webinars and trainings, sign up to begin receiving notifications for future events, and access the recordings of webinars you may have missed. And on that note, we can get started. I would like to introduce our presenter for today, Shannon Hazelton, Project Manager at the Environmental Finance Center at Wichita State University. Welcome, Shannon, and I will go ahead and hand it over to you.
Sure, are you able to see my slides there, Zoe?
Yes, I can.
Okay. My name is Shannon Hazelton, and I'm a program manager with Environmental Finance Center at Wichita State University. We were in the middle there when she shared that map. It's good to be here with you all, and I hope you've had a good day so far. Today, I'm going to cover a topic relating to a project I'm working on currently. We're going to talk about monitoring your solids in a sludge lagoon. It has been a project I have been working on for over a year. I'm very proud of the work we put into this as we begin to launch it. Even if this project can't help you directly, I hope to make you aware of the services that may be available in your area that you may have been unaware of. During the webinar, we will cover the learning objectives, my water story, how the discussion on this project came about, why this project is important, how it can help your facility with capacity development, potentially funding for the future, and how to get started yourself. Finally, we hopefully will have time for some questions. You will be able to identify new technologies to help in your sludge management plan. You will understand the impact of sludge on your treatment process. and you'll be able to plan for future needs of your lagoon. I didn't grow up wanting to be a water or wastewater operator. However, I have found I love teaching and supporting operators through training. I never knew this career could be so fun, meaningful, and full of opportunity. When I entered this field, no one had ever shown me what a wastewater career could offer. I truly believe I would have chosen this path sooner if my local community college had offered an internship program or the water environmental technology program when I was younger. Even today, many young people still don't know how these careers exist. That's why I'm committed to sharing my passion for the work. As you can see, I've been able to work at a wide variety of jobs in various locations. I have worked with large contractors installing housing developments for municipalities, as well as municipalities of varying sizes. The city of Des Moines is the largest facility in Iowa, and I also affidavit operate for a community of only about 80 people. All of these facilities have used some of the technology we're going to discuss today, just not both together like I am now. I'm fortunate enough to have grade 4 licenses in all 4 disciplines in Iowa. I also have reciprocity in Alaska. In the past, I have helped with job shadows and internships with high school and college students, and I currently spend much of my time introducing high school students to water and wastewater careers through classroom visits in Iowa and surrounding states. Just want to address these are not new technologies as a whole. We didn't invent something specific for this project. GPS and sonar are used in a lot of different applications in the water and wastewater industry already. There are also currently a few other companies accomplishing the same task in other states. The cost for this service in other parts of the U.S. varies by region and size of your lagoon. Under this specific funding source, we're able to provide this service at no cost in our EPA Region 7. In March of 2024, some members of our Wichita State University staff met with some state of Iowa members in the Iowa Department of Natural Resources. One of the tasks the state had addressed needing help with was to assist the over 900 lagoons with sludge measurement and management. I had mentioned that I had helped at a conference a few years back where a contractor had spoke about his company that supplies aerators for lagoons, and he had also had a remote control boat that had sonar and GPS attached to it to measure and map the sludge in a lagoon quicker, safer, and more accurately. We started dividing up the task of trying to find out how we could start doing the same thing to assist many small communities that may be underserved or understaffed. As we began looking at the standard recommendation for a manual sludge survey, step 1, gather necessary personnel and equipment. Personnel, there should be 2 people in the boat and 1 on the bank. So that was going to require at least 3 people from our team to do it this way. A boat, a 12-foot John boat with trolling motor is recommended. Floating vest, every person within the lagoon berm should wear a flotation vest. And as we ruled out doing this survey in many ways, first and foremost, the safety aspect of being on a boat in any body of water comes with added risks. Then we would need to have more than 1 staff member at each site we are doing. We would need a vehicle to transport our boat, pay additional insurance and registration for the trailer. Then was only going to map 24 points going to be enough information to help us make any recommendations to the communities we wanted to help. This map shows 15 grids where you could take measurements and start to map your sludge. This would give a good trend if you were doing this regularly, but most of the communities we were looking to help haven't done this in a while, so we were wanting a more detailed map to give us more real-time data. Even this small of a lagoon would take longer to do than we were wanting to spend. Going in a little boat and trying to make sure you stayed in the grid with windy conditions, make sure you don't fall over, grab a sample with your sludge judge, map it, and move to the next spot didn't seem like the best use of our time and resource. This could very easily turn into a whole day project or longer depending on the number and size of the lagoons. A grid this size might give an okay representation of the lagoon, but this would be very time consuming, and most places have multiple lagoons and could be a multi-day project for 3 of our staff members. I don't really want to speak for anyone else, but this is not how I would want to spend my very warm summer months in Iowa or anywhere else. It's not comfortable. It's going to be very warm. You won't feel the breeze. Drawing on your map would be hard. And what about when you need to go to the bathroom? Is this what you would really want to be doing with your day? I'm sure years ago, people may have looked at this and thought this was okay. In today's age of technology and safety, this is not. There's no life jackets. The boat is very unstable and has no handrail to hold onto or anything to stabilize the boat. It only takes one slip to end up in the bottom of a lagoon. This is definitely not what we wanted to be doing or what the university would want to pay us to be doing. Again, there's no life jackets, but thankfully they have seats and what appears to be a handrail. The boat isn't stable and still needs a way to transport it. I have also never seen a lagoon with a built-in boat ramp, so being able to launch these boats isn't going to be a simple process either. That's how we have always done it. That phrase should never be said. It's probably my biggest pet peeve in the industry. Just because it's always been done a certain way doesn't make it safe, efficient, or correct. Understand why you are doing something a certain way. It is okay to still measure your sludge with a small pontoon or flat bottom boat, but make sure you are doing it safely and make sure it isn't costing you more to devote a required amount of time for your staff to do this rather than have someone come in and handle it for you. Some regulatory agencies require sludge measuring to be done annually. How many hours are devoted to this annually from planning to execution? How many other projects take a backseat when you have multiple staff members at the lagoons for days? We were able to find some companies with this technology were using a remote controlled boat equipped with sonar. We were able to see that you could get hundreds or thousands of data points to make an accurate map in about as much time as it took to maybe launch your boat and take 2 sludge measurements, all from standing safely on the berm of the lagoon. This seemed like the best option for us because we could spend about 15 to 20 minutes per lagoon and give a very good detailed map of where the sludge is deepest in case you need a targeted approach to control the sludge and delay having a lagoon cleaned out. One of the first remote control boats we found was really nice and had a lot of bells and whistles. This would have been a great option if we were doing this for a profit. Aside from the cost, we would then be responsible for any damage and repairs and needed to have licenses for GPS, the data program, and stay on top of needed updates. So we kept looking for further options. This boat would have been able to drive itself around the lagoon if we were able to enter the data, and we wouldn't even have to run the remote control on it. We would just put in all the data, drop it in, and away it would go. I ended up being able to drive down to southern Iowa and meet up with a company from Centralia, Illinois, and see what their boat was capable of doing. I was able to not only see how they set up for a survey, taking all the necessary data points, like measuring from the control point to the top of the water, but I was able to walk with the employee and see how quickly and easily he could maneuver the boat. I even got to drive it a little bit. As you can see, the boat is smaller than the width of a tailgate and not very tall as well. Inside the gray box on the top is a sealed GPS unit, and that's where the memory card goes. On the back, underneath the boat, is the propeller that moves and steers the boat. Also on the bottom is a sonar device that measures from the top of the water to the top of the sludge. Once all the data points are entered, the program can determine the amount of water volume and the amount of sludge volume in the lagoon, and we can estimate the detention time of liquid in your lagoon, as well as if this isn't your first sludge survey, we can see how much sludge you're accumulating annually. Why the project is important. Per EPA guidelines, solids accumulation should be checked annually and measure sludge depth throughout the lagoon. Sludge levels should be maintained at less than 30% of the total lagoon depth. Excessive sludge in a lagoon can reduce treatment capacity and efficiency by lowering detention time and contributing to bulking sludge and odors. Sludge can also provide a nutrient source for aquatic vegetation like duckweed and algae causing additional growth that can overwhelm a system, leading to BOD and total suspended solids challenges in the effluent. Preventing the sludge blanket from exceeding 20% of the total depth can help regulate the total microbial population and promote the dominance of the most efficient treatment organisms. A sludge judge or ultrasonic interface monitor can be used for sludge blanket monitoring. Starting with the newly started lagoon or one that has had the solids removed recently, you'll have a very thin layer of sludge. That will allow for enough volume of water to give you the needed detention time for proper treatment. There will be enough water to keep sludge odors to a minimum, and sludge will not build up in front of the influent pipe or be carried out over the effluent weir. Sludge is composed primarily of organic matter, meaning it contains carbon and is of plant, animal, or human origin. It also consists of inorganic material that either gets flushed, rinsed, or may even just blow into the lagoon. Everybody's sludge is going to be made up of something slightly different based on your influent loads. Lagoons are different than mechanical plants, built with digesters and sludge dewatering equipment. In mechanical plants with sludge dewatering or thickening equipment, you are able to remove your sludge after treatment and dispose of according to your biosolids plan. This helps you maintain the capacity and efficiency of your treatment process. Lagoons were designed to store a certain amount of solids in the bottom of the lagoon before disposal, gradually decreasing capacity and efficiency of the treatment processes. As more organics and inorganics flow into the lagoon over time, the sludge will continue to rise. In most cases, this isn't a very fast process. It generally takes years to accumulate to a depth where it needs to be removed. Lagoons were designed to hold sludge and still have detention time for the influent to be treated for a period of time before it needs to be cleaned. Over time, and especially if you aren't tracking the sludge blanket, before you know it, your sludge will be over the influent pipe and will be stirring the solids up and keeping them in suspension. This will cause them to flow out with the effluent. You have decreased detention time and your treatment process has lost efficiency. If you are lucky enough to still be in compliance, it won't be long before you are constantly having violations. Sludge displaces valuable treatment capacity. It creates channeling of sewage flows, creating short circuiting. It feeds nutrients back into the water column, feeding new algae cell growth. And it creates and causes odors that the neighboring citizens are not going to be very fond of. From the last stage, if you took your first sludge measurement and realized it needed to be cleaned, you likely won't have the equipment, finances, or a contractor to get it removed in a couple months. While you are waiting and planning, your lagoon will be overtaken with sludge. It was time to plan for this when the lagoon was built. If you couldn't afford to have the sludge pumped out 10 years ago, you likely won't be able to afford it now. There's also no way to meet compliance currently. You should have started planning day one of the lagoon becoming operational. Even if you waited 10 years to get started, you are in better shape than never getting started and pretending like sludge doesn't exist. At this point, you will be having many odor complaints, constant compliance violations, working closely with the regulatory agency to get you in compliance, and worst of all, needing to raise your resident sewer rates drastically to get a loan to pay for the removal of sludge ASAP. Zoe, go ahead and launch the first poll question.
All right, our first poll question is, does your community do a regular sludge survey? Yes, no, or not applicable? And we'll give everyone a little bit of time to answer. It looks like about 25% of people still haven't answered, so we'll give them just a little more time. All right, it looks like most folks have answered. We had 9% of folks saying yes, 25% of folks saying no, and 66% of folks saying it's not applicable to them.
What can a sludge survey help with? Making sure you are frequently doing a sludge survey will help determine a sludge accumulation rate, estimate sludge volume and mass for a dredging contractor, and for permit or compliance requirements. Hydraulic retention time in a pond is critical because it affects the following: nitrogen removal, pathogen destruction and inactivation, algae growth, BOD removal, TSS removal. It will help to make sure contaminants that got settled out into the sludge stay in the sludge instead of passing out with the effluent. And if you need to start adding a chemical for treatment, you will accumulate sludge at a much faster rate than you currently are. Now we're going to measure the capacity in a hypothetical lagoon. I'm not going to try to make you all get out calculators and do the math. I'm going to step through it slowly. We're going to have a 1 acre lagoon, and 1 acre lagoon is equal to 43,560 square feet. 1 acre foot is equal to 326,000 gallons of water. If you're going to figure out the volume in cubic feet, you take the square feet times the depth. That gives you your volume in cubic feet. Take that volume times 7.48, and that gives you the gallons. Now, following that method, you're not going to have exactly 326,000. The 326,000 is what is on the WPI or the ABC need to know conversion sheet that you use on the exams. So we'll take our lagoon. We're going to pretend it's 1 acre and it has 8 foot deep of capacity. And it's designed to have a 1 foot maximum sludge blanket. So you're going to have 7 feet of water. This will also give you over 180 days of storage, and your daily flow to the community is 12,000 gallons. So at that, it gives you 2.3 million gallons of water, 43,560 cubic feet of sludge, and 192 days of detention time. If you accumulate just 6 more inches of sludge, so at 1.5 foot of sludge, you only have 2.1 million gallons of water, 65,340 cubic feet of sludge, and a detention time of 175 days. Adding another foot of sludge, you go down to 1.9 million gallons of water. You have doubled your sludge. It's at 87,120 cubic feet, and your detention time is now down to 158 days. If you triple that and get 3 feet of sludge, you have 1.6 million gallons of water capacity, 130,680 cubic feet of sludge, and your detention time has gone down to 133 days. For each 6-inch increase in sludge, you lose 17 days of retention time. You could probably get by with an extra 6 inches of sludge, but once you get an extra foot, you will need to be discharging more than your permit may allow. It should also be noted that this doesn't take into account for any I&I or extra dumps you may get throughout the year. Sludge accumulates slower in colder climates. The solids in the waste will also play a factor. How many organics versus how many inorganics you have. Organics can be decomposed to take up less space, but the inorganic material, rocks, sand, silt, etc., will take up more space in the lagoon. Zoe, go ahead and go to the second poll.
All right, our next poll is, when was your last sludge survey? This year, last year, within 5 years, greater than 5 years ago, or not applicable. And we'll give folks some time to get their answers in. All right, looks like we've got 25% of folks still haven't gotten their answers in, so we'll give them just a little bit more time. All right, most folks voted, so we have 2% said their last sludge survey was this year, 5% said last year, 7% said it was within 5 years, 9% said it was greater than 5 years ago, and 77% of folks said it wasn't applicable to them.
It sounds like we have quite a few that are either with a state or a TA provider that don't have to do that. The ones that are here, hopefully, we're able to get them more recent sludge surveys. A good sludge survey can help with budgeting and planning for when you will not only need to have the sludge removed, it can also help you plan in case the lagoon will not be efficient enough to provide treatment for the growth of your community or the addition of a new business in town. It can help you understand what is going on in your lagoon and how long you will hopefully remain in compliance. It can provide safety to your community by not having to let your operators be in a small boat over wastewater. It will allow more time for your staff to get to more pressing matters within the community. It had been over a year from working with our vendor after meeting with the state last year from when we were able to actually receive the boat and start doing sludge surveys in Iowa. As you can see, the remote is just a simple little handheld remote. It's got a flashing light on it so you can see it when it's out in the middle of a lagoon. It comes with a carrying box that it can go in the backseat of a car, the back of a truck, back of an SUV. Anybody can transport it. There's no additional requirements needed to transport this. To someone driving by the lagoon, it may look like someone is just playing with a toy out there. The boat doesn't need to get any closer to the edge of the water than this. The software program can take the slope of the lagoon into account and figure out the measurements from a pass just like this. We try to go back and forth up the lagoon about every 20 to 30 feet. It has a predetermined speed that when you set the cruise control, you just steer it as it goes up there. So you're not having to it'll take the same GPS and sonar measurements every second as it's rolling through there, and you'll have the same pattern of marks. What can't we survey? We can't survey spots with duckweed. It will block the sonar lens and give bad readings. We also can't survey a freshly drained lagoon that would have too many solids close to the surface because it will plug the propeller. Rags can easily get sucked up when the boat is in shallow water. Now, this one we found out firsthand because the very first survey we went to do, we put it in and it just started stirring up too much mud and the boat really slowed down. So we realized we needed to make sure that we had this on at least 2 feet of water to make sure that it wasn't going to plug the propeller. If the lagoon has a liner, that is generally okay to survey. However, if there are air bubbles popping the liner to the surface, we could drive the boat across the top, but it would not give you a very accurate reading for sludge accumulation. It would read to the liner, which may not have any sludge on it, but it would tell you that that's where your sludge is. In this instance, you could also see the liner very close to the top going from bubble to bubble all the way across the lagoon. Along with duckweed, we also can't drive through vegetation or silted in lagoons very similar to this. So if we would only be able to maybe provide data on half of the lagoon if this was one of them we showed up to do. Zoe, go ahead and go to the third poll question.
All right, our third poll question is, what do you think this service would cost? Under $1,000, $1,001 to $3,000, over $3,000, or you don't want to guess? We'll give everyone a little bit of time to put their answers in. All right, it looks like 17% of folks think the service would cost less than $1,000. 42% of folks think it would cost somewhere between $1,001 and $3,000. And 34% of folks think it would cost over $3,000 for this service.
Most of them I've talked to have been in the $3,000 to $4,000 range, depending on the size of the lagoon, distance the people would have to travel with it, and if they can tie it in with another facility closer, so it's not just a one trip thing. So that, yeah, this is not always going to be the cheapest solution, but it is going to tend to be the safest. And depending on what region you're in, there are options to get this even cheaper than that. I know I was talking about how safe it is to be on land versus the water. This is the surface of the very first lagoon we pulled up to. I had never seen sheep and miniature donkeys before, so this was a new safety hazard we had to encounter. Luckily, they were kind of skittish, so as we walked to the lagoons, they tended to leave us alone. But we did have to make sure we closed all the gates behind us. And I don't think you can see the real danger in this photo, but thankfully the local operator had let us know that there was a swan's nest on the other side of the lagoon, that we just stayed on our side and drove the boat from that side and didn't walk around. And then he also made us aware of a badger hole that we didn't want to step in or mess around with. So I'm sure we'll encounter some new safety concerns as we survey more lagoons, but I will take this over falling into a wastewater lagoon any day. So how can you go about getting started getting a sludge survey with one of these boats in your area? Are you located in Region 7 for the EPA, Iowa, Nebraska, Kansas, or Missouri? If you're in one of those regions, contact me and we can schedule something for you. If you live in Illinois, reach out and I can put you in contact with the company that is helping us from there. I don't know too many other companies personally, but I know they're out there. And if you happen to live up by Minnesota, that is where I know the other one is. But if you don't, you can reach out to any TA provider like the Rural Water Association. In Iowa, they have started doing some of their trainings where the people come in and show their sludge boat. This may be something they have knowledge of, and I'm only aware of the one in Minnesota, Illinois, and us in the Midwest, but I haven't been looking in those other regions, so they may exist. I would also suggest you find the as-built drawings for your lagoons, because that is the first thing I'm going to ask somebody for when they reach out and ask if I can help them. If I have the as-built, I can determine the absolute bottom of the lagoon, so we know how much depth is from the top of the sludge to the bottom of the lagoon. I would also get multiple quotes from contractors if possible, and then see what kind of map they are going to provide you. Is one map easier to read than the others? The most important thing to take away from today is to start planning for sludge removal now. Even if you won't need it for 10 to 15 years, the best time to start is now. I also want you to be aware that there are other technologies for sludge measurement than a sludge judge and a flat bottom boat. Lastly, I want you to take a look at your lagoon and flows and figure out how many days of detention time you are losing with each foot of sludge that accumulates. Lagoons can be fairly easy to maintain, but they do require some effort in planning. And go ahead and launch that last poll question.
All right, our last poll question is, are you planning for sludge removal currently? Yes, no, or not applicable? And while we wait for those answers to get in, I encourage everyone to submit any questions they may have into the questions box, as we'll be transitioning into the Q&A shortly. All right, it looks like most folks have answered. 19% of people said yes, they are planning for sludge removal right now. 13% said no, and the rest said not applicable.
Okay. Yeah. And I hope some of those that were not applicable earlier were potentially engineers or somebody that has a community or knows somebody that they can kind of refer this service to. I've been trying to communicate with engineers in the Midwest, and I've gotten a few at conferences that are interested for the smaller communities. There's not many requirements to be able to assist a community other than they need to have an NPDES permit. They need to be a community. It can't be like a state park or something like that with an NPDES permit. Other than that, it's pretty wide open to who can be helped with this. And so with that, I would like to thank you guys for attending. If you have any questions, I will try to answer them. If I don't have an answer, I can try to find out and get back to you.
All right, we've got quite a few questions, so I'll start with our first one. The first question is there a way to calculate how much sludge will be accumulated in a lagoon over the years?
Yes, if you were to have two measurements done, say you measured your sludge in 2010, and then you checked it again in 2025, and you gained 15 inches of sludge, you would know that in that 15-year period, you were averaging about an inch of sludge accumulation per year. That's probably not the most accurate to say you're going to be accumulating an inch a year. Hopefully you would not be waiting 15 years to do it because you would have seasonal fluctuations in there. But if you took how much sludge was in there at your baseline and then mapped it again in another year or two, you would be able to find a much more accurate rate of accumulation there in that 2 to 3 year time frame. So the communities that don't have as-built, we are still going to do a sludge measurement for them, but theirs isn't going to be necessarily you look high in sludge, you need to get it pumped out. Theirs is going to be for a baseline, so we can go back in a year or two and help them find how much is accumulating and where it's accumulating at. So yes. Did that answer your question?
I think it looks like it did.
Okay.
Our next question is, could drones with proper equipment also be used for lagoon surveys?
I would say yes. If you're using sonar technology, I wouldn't see why that wouldn't work. A lot of time it'd be no different than like a lift station where the sonar is elevated above the water, and then it is measuring down through the water. I don't want to say yes or no. I think that would be a great technology. It might be a little bit harder because then you would need to have your FCC license and things like that. But I think it could be. That would be very interesting. If you have the technology.
We might have lost your audio, Shannon. Shannon, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, I think I lost your audio briefly.
Oh,
But
did you
I
hear
think,
any from me?
what'd you say?
Did you hear any response from me in regards to that?
Yes, I think I heard the bulk of the response is that
Okay.
a drone could be a viable technology, but we don't know the details yet.
Yep. No, I haven't seen that done. I think it would be fun. I think you would just need to have a licensing for the drone on top of the GPS and software licensing. But, and then you would have to fly at a constant elevation as well, to get that.
On that note, our next question is an elevation benchmark at the Lagoon site needed?
It wouldn't necessarily need a control point benchmark if the as-built shows an elevation of the berm. A lot of times what we've been doing is just measuring from the berm to the water, because on the topographical map of the as-built, it shows the berm is at a set point, and then the bottom of the lagoon is either 8 foot or 10 foot below that yet. So if, as long as there is something that shows the elevation, that could be a effluent concrete structure, the berm, a pole in there with, the 1 foot, 2 foot, 3 foot marks showing that the bottom has been established. I even got one community I'm going to help later this week. They have a concrete ramp that they put in. I'm not sure when, but it has foot marks, and that is their measurement gauge for the elevation of the lagoon. So as long as there's something to say that the bottom has been established, that is good. I haven't dealt with it yet with this, but some lagoons used to get cleaned out by running dozers across the bottom and have them push the sludge. Well, they may make divots in the bottom, and that alters everything. So as long as there's something that says what should be there, that's where we'll start with.
All right, thank you. The next question, we touched on it a little bit in the presentation, but it is, how much is the boat and software?
The boat is about $12,000, and we are leasing it. So if it has any damage outside of me, then the contractor company is responsible for fixing it. And they have all the licensing for the GPS. They have the licensing for the software. I just drive the boat and send them the data. They make the map. If as you saw, that one boat was about $60,000. That was just the boat. That was not even the software you needed to take the data and make a map. So we got really lucky and are renting this boat or leasing this boat from the company, and they handle all of the updates with the licensing, all of the technical, the repairs, everything like that. And they're also trying to work on making a new boat that would be autonomous, like that other one where you set the data points and it goes and drives the boat, which doesn't really help that much because you still need to be there on site. And then they're also trying to make an addition to where that boat, when you drive it out, you're now able to grab a sludge sample from the bottom of the lagoon as well without needing to go out in the boat to grab that. So they're trying to make some advancements in safety and technology currently, but there's a wide range of cost. I think that 60,000 was on the higher end. There's some used ones out there that are in the 20s. You just have to figure out where to look. And if anybody has any questions on where to get one of these, I can send that stuff over too. But ours is on a monthly lease.
Thank you. And kind of in a similar vein, we have someone trying to clarify if their system is in your EPA region, is that a service that Wichita State University is offering for free?
They are in our region.
Yeah, it was a general question. So any system
Okay.
in your region can reach out and
Yes.
ask that.
Yep. Feel free to email me there. I live in Iowa, and so I can do Iowa within a few days or weeks of being contacted. In Kansas, I'm looking at going down to Kansas next month and doing some in Kansas. There has been some engineers reaching out in Missouri. And so those ones that are further away in other states, yes, it's definitely possible to do. I just am trying to line up a couple days worth of them at once. So if you live in that area, know a few other operators, reach out to me, give me some contacts. We can definitely help you.
Thank you. Our next question is there a survey that allows for quantifying the volumes of organics versus inorganics in the sludge in the lagoon?
No, you couldn't determine that currently off of our measuring that you have X amount of sludge depth. However, with the new technology that they're trying to develop where it grabs that sample, you can then test that solids for organics and inorganics that way. But unless you grabbed an actual core sample of your sludge, you wouldn't be able to tell just based off of a measurement.
Thank you. Our next question is, have you seen successful applications of alternative methods of dealing with accumulated sludge other than dredging?
The company who's selling us or leasing us the boat, they have some bio augmentation packets that you're able to place into the lagoon where the sludge has accumulated at higher rates. I don't think it's going to like eat and dissolve all of your sludge, but it may delay some of the accumulation of sludge or slow down the accumulation in those areas. I don't think there's any other way to get rid of the sludge other than potentially dredging. I mean, it'd be fun if they could put in some sort of screw press or something similar that the larger plants use on their digester, and you were just able to bring in a mobile unit or something like that and press some of the sludge and then haul it away in a dump truck to the landfill or something, versus having a contractor come and haul away lots and lots of liquid sludge. I'd say keep an eye out. There should be something coming sooner or later, but right now I think really the only means of sludge disposal in a lagoon is dredging it and land applying it.
Thank you. Our next question is part question, part comment. It says, are you familiar with using Vexilar, the same thing used for ice fishing, for a sludge survey? They say it works very well.
I am not. Is that just like a fish finder type of device that you would attach to the boat?
That's how I interpreted the question.
Okay. Yeah, no, we had discussed that potentially, rather than if we did use a little boat, we would potentially use the fish finder type thing and measure it that way. but we just didn't want, with me being in Iowa, I'm the only employee in Iowa. At the time, there was another employee in Iowa, but we lived about 2 hours apart. So the amount of travel to get two people to the same place would have been very costly for the university, and it just wouldn't have been as efficient as trying to go this route. But no, those fish finders are very similar. And I've talked to a few people that have used something similar to that, where they put it on the boat and then they just troll across that way. And that way is a lot safer than sludge judging. I just think that you would maybe need two people on the boat and some way to get the boat into the lagoon. But if they're doing it that way is very efficient as well.
Thank you. Our next question is, have you used small boat drone measuring, excuse my pronunciation, it says bathymetry?
Oh, okay. I have not, but some of the sales companies that we reached out to for these had some of the bathymetric boats available for sale too. So we have not done anything with them yet, but I've heard the word and seen it in this technology, but I have not done it.
Gotcha, thank you. I'll give people just a little bit of time in case we have any last minute questions, but it looks like that was our last one. So last call for questions, folks. I'll give you just a second. All right, it looks like we are all set. Huge thank you to Shannon for sharing his expertise with us today. Following this webinar, you will receive a follow-up email with the slides from today and a link to the recording. We also ask that you complete the webinar evaluation following the webinar, so you can let us know your thoughts on today's session, as this helps us plan future webinars on topics important to you. Thank you again, and we hope to see you at future EFCN events. Have a great day, everyone.